All right, what's up, Valuable Coaching? Happy Friday. Um, I hope you guys have enjoyed our first week of daily thoughts here on Valuable Coaching. Again, please follow us on YouTube. You can watch these there, or again, you can listen to even these short 10 to 15-minute segments on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Casts, and we're going to try and keep expanding where you can find those, hopefully on Apple Podcasts here soon. We had a couple great interviews last night, some long form ones. One of them is already up on YouTube. I was with Coach Nickie Sanlin from McKendree University, and she really did a great job talking to us about her philosophy, how she runs two programs, both a men's and a women's Division II program at a university, and how she runs them kind of like one big family. And I got a great clip from her right here that I pulled out that you can find online as well. And I just want everybody to take a look at it, and then we'll kind of talk about what she's looking at, and then also some of the other points that she brought up throughout this interview that I really thought were important and that we can look at going forward to continue to grow the game of volleyball, to continue to find best practices, and again, for each person to try and pull out, whatever information works for them and their program.
That turns people off, but I'll say majority of the time, they're like, yes, I will work hard for whatever you say. And transparency wins kids over because you're not a victim. You choose your path. And as long as you know where you stand, they seem to be okay. Even though I think nowadays we're in a quitter's culture of like, okay, things are hard, I'm going to quit and go to another school. I don't have people that transfer very often. And if they do, it's, hey, you guys don't have nursing and I really want to go on the nursing track. Or, this is a lot of time commitment. I really want to focus on my studies, but once a Bearcat, you're always a Bearcat. You're always welcome in my gym. So we don't have retention issues. We'd rather, I'll give you kind of a funny story, and I hope I'm going to tell him to listen to this. Our libero and I got in an argument, and it was very, very boisterous argument, and they all got kicked out of practice, and I was pissed off. And one of our grad school captains, and he asked me like my thought process, because you're allowed to ask what's your opinion, ask my thought, I will give it to you. And he's like, hey, I told him never do that again, that's unacceptable, but I am glad you explained to me where you're coming from. Not 30 minutes later, I get a text from the guy, and he's like, can we talk tomorrow? And I was like, I didn't want to respond because I was pissed. I was like, I'm not talking to you. But at the end of the conversation, at the end of the text, it said, I still love you though. And I was like, I'll tell you I love you in like an hour. Not right now. So long story short, I told him I loved him. I did. I waited my hour. And we have a conversation the next day about how, one, that'll never happen again, because this is, again, my show, but it was heat of the moment. And you just set an example. You're a leader on this team. You set an example to the freshman that that's okay. And he's like, oh, really? And he had an opinion about what we argued about. And I'm like, I agree with you. And he's like, what? I'm like, no, I agree with you. I don't have to be right for us to be great, because great teams, it's not this dictator just beating on the drum. I think I'm a dictator sometimes, but I'm not great without my assistants. I'm not great without the kids. I'm not great without my administrator. So I don't need to hear my voice, and I don't need to be right. But there's always a way of like, if that was your opinion, we could have talked about it after practice, and I still would have agreed. We hugged. We said, I love you. We do say a lot of I love yous here. And that was it. So if you treat these athletes like people, you get 1,000%.
All right. So from that clip, I mean, you can see Coach Sanlin, she's a very intense coach. She's definitely honest with her players, and she's going to let them know, what she's feeling, which I think that's very genuine. That's who she is. And, that's what coaches have to do. No matter what your way of coaching is, you have to kind of be true to it. If you're a very intense coach and you have some swagger, and that's the kind of players you want, like Coach Nickie Sanlin wants, then that's the way you got to coach, and those players will buy in if you're genuine. She talked a little bit about kind of that culture of having people quit and move on if things are too easy. I've certainly seen that at times with kids. Not that they totally quit, but that they want to find an easy path, and that's not realistic. And I think that's awesome that at a university where you're preparing people for life, that um, you know Coach Nickie is there telling them, you're gonna have to work for this, and that you're coming here. It's bigger than just you. It's about the team. It's about the university, and you're gonna get better from that and be able to move on with your life afterwards, more prepared. Um, she really talks about too how it's a family, one big family, and that they really care for each other, and that she's there for them. And I think that's also something that's very genuine, and again gets buy-in from your players. Um, as coaches, we need to be there for them. Not just there on the court. We need to care about some of the things that happen off the court with them, and they're human too, just like we are. We want to be able to have our lives outside the court and our families. But those players, no matter what their age, have those too, and they want to know that their coaches care about that. Um, she really got into a lot of how she recruits, and she likes some players with attitude. She likes players that she can help build up and teach them skills. And that was a little bit different than some of the things we've heard from other coaches. But again, that's the kind of person that she wants on her team, and that's who she works well with. And so it was great to see that there's coaches out there who are really working to their strengths and are willing to work with their assistants and with the players to figure out how to get their teams better. Um, you know, we also talked to Coach Chris Thomas last night. His episode will be coming out next week. He had some great points in there too about culture, but it was an interesting dynamic talking to two coaches that are both very successful, and both played at high levels, and both have been successful coaches, but do it in slightly different ways. Coach Thomas is a little more laid back, and he didn't talk about some of the same things that Coach Nickie did, but they're both finding success in being themselves and being genuine, and showing their true selves. They both have families, and they both embrace that part of their life with their team, and it pays off in the long run. Um, and so to finish off this week, I just thought it was great to have two coaches that really got Kevin and I excited last night to talk volleyball, to talk about life, to talk about coaching. But to have Coach Nickie get on there, and she also started talking about First Point, which is a program that is reaching out, trying to do kind of a grassroots movement with volleyball and trying to grow men's volleyball in particular. And she's a big part of that. And it's great to see a woman who is coaching a men's team and is getting on board to want to grow the sport. She sees it as a great opportunity for young men, and it's just amazing. She did a great job explaining what First Point is in that, so you should go back and again listen to the whole thing. We'll continue to kind of pull out some shorter clips, but she's a great coach. I loved her intensity. I loved the fact that she is building her team like a family. And the one thing too that I would say is I'm sure there's other coaches at high schools that have boys and girls teams that they coach both teams, or at clubs that coach both boys and girls. And what she said is that she allows kids every now and then, if they are going to have to miss a practice, to come jump in the women's practice, or if a woman is going to miss her practice, to jump in with the men. And it allows them to get better and to continue to practice, and just to see how the game is played, slightly differently, and to build their skills going against different competition. And so, again, I wouldn't shy away from that if you're a coach. I know at the middle school level, I've done that where I've integrated those practices in, especially at like the middle school level. If you've got a 12 and under teams, you got 14 and under teams that are pretty raw. Some of those boys can jump pretty high and hit hard, but a lot of times they haven't focused a lot yet on passing, not always quality serving, just hard serving. And, some of the girls really tend to have a lot of refined skills, passing and setting. And so you can combine those things, and it really helps let them see that, you really need all those skills in order to create a great team. And so then moving forward, once they get out of middle school into high school, continuing to have that. I've had managers who are boys from the boys volleyball team, and it works great to have them jump in and do some things in practice just to turn up the intensity level a little bit. And these are things that we should look at doing. We don't always have to keep those things separate, and we can help players evolve, with whatever means we have. The last part of that grassroots movement is just that something that I want to say is I hope people who want to grow the game of volleyball are willing to step outside the box, run some clinics, camps at places that are a little unconventional, get some grass nets, at school blacktops, if they have a net set up, it's a great place to go just start and introduce the game. There's no reason it can't be grown there. And so, I look forward to putting out Chris Thomas's interview next week and pulling out some snippets from that and talking about it. But again, I really want to thank Coach Nickie Sanlin. I met her last night for the first time. Excellent coach. Follow McKendree Volleyball, both men's and women's, and check out the First Point and see how we can keep growing this great game. Thank you guys so much for a great first week. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram at Valuable Coaching. And again, really, I think these long form interviews are great on the podcast, version. So listen to it, speed it up a little bit, and again, pull out the information that works for you to grow your coaching and your teaching of these young athletes. And we'll be back next Monday with a great long form interview and some more shorter thoughts. So thank you guys so much for a great first week, and look forward to getting back to it on Monday.